Thank you so much for joining us to learn a little bit more about the first year orientation guide, or FROG, position that we have here in our orientation and transition office. We're so glad that you want to learn more about the role and see if this is the right fit for you for this year. Before we dive into details about the role, I want to make sure that the people speaking to you today introduce themselves. So I will start first. My name is Mallory Powers, and I'm the Assistant Director of Transition here in the Office of Orientation and Transition.
And I am Emma Hines. I'm one of the graduate assistants for the Office of Orientation and Transition.
I am going to turn it over to Emma and let her kick us off.
So orientation and transition is guided always by our mission statement, which is that orientation engages students in the JMU learning experience by preparing them to be active and authentic members of the university community. And as a FROG, you would be an instrumental part of this because you are the first touchstone that students get when they come and join JMU for the first time.
So who are the FROGs, right? If we know that we're kind of the first touch point and we're helping them live active and authentic lives in our community, who are the FROGs and how do they help with that process? First, they are student-driven leaders who represent various different student experiences across campus. This is really important to us in our office and our team. We want to make sure that we are recruiting students from every corner of campus that have really different JMU experiences to make sure that we have a diverse team that is able to reach and help transition all of our first-year students. We're also looking for students who are open to celebrating and welcoming diversity. As a FROG, you will likely be supporting and working with students who come from a really different background and experience than you, and we want to recruit students who are really open to that and want to celebrate that. You'll probably also be working with staff members, faculty members, administrators, who all come from widely different experiences, and so it's important that we keep an open mind and we are ready and willing to work with all different kinds of people. These are volunteers who are interested in supporting the transition of our new students into our JMU community. Ultimately, this is the most important, critical part of the FROG experience, is really supporting and helping and aiding in that transition for our new students. Like Emma said, you're often like the first person that our new students interact with and build a relationship with at our university. And so we want to make sure that we recruit volunteers that are really excited about building those relationships with the new first-year students. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we hope our FROGs are role models who are positive representatives of JMU. This is a really highly visible position. It's a well-known position. And so we want to make sure that we are working with students who are excited about the job and who are going to be a positive representation of the JMU community and institution widely. So we are definitely looking for service-driven volunteers who are excited about supporting our new students' transitions.
So now that we've talked a little bit about what FROGs are, let's talk a little bit about what FROGs are not. FROGs are not always the most outgoing or loudest person in the room. There is definitely an idea that if you want to work in orientation, you have to be like a Disney cast member who's always on, but we want to represent all different kinds of students, and that means that we want our FROGs to be all different kinds of students. So even if you're not the most extroverted person in the world, you should apply. FROGs are not people who have always had a typical JMU experience so far. So if you're a transfer student, a non-traditional student, maybe you took a gap year, again, we want you to apply so that you are able to connect with first years who have a similar path. FROGs are not parents who babysit their first year students all of the weeks of welcome, and FROGs are also not required to give up their entire summer. We've heard a lot of feedback about the position, and we definitely made some changes that Mallory will talk about in a little bit to give our FROGs a little bit more free time.
That leads really well into our next topic, which is time commitment. So thinking about how much time our FROGs will be dedicating throughout the entire upcoming year. So to start first, we have our individual interviews beginning in late March. This is a time where our office will be reaching out to candidates that we are really excited about, and we will have the opportunity to speak more directly with you about your experiences and why you are interested in the FROG position. So be on the lookout for those to occur after spring break. After that, our next training day would be Saturday, April 22nd. It's an all-day training where our FROG team gets to come together for the first time. We get to meet each other, build community, set expectations, and talk about the year ahead. It's a really fun day, and we're really excited to meet everyone at that spring training day. The next in-person training day that we have is in August. That kicks off on Tuesday, August 15th. It's the 15th, 16th, and 17th. And that allows us time to train for the upcoming move-in and weeks of welcome dates, and really allows us to set expectations and get on the same page as a large team. And so following training, we move right into first-year student move-in. An expectation of the frog role is that all of our frogs help with first-year student move-in. But like Emma mentioned a little bit earlier, we have received lots of feedback that 2 back-to-back days of move-in can be very arduous and long days. And so we have listened and we have adjusted. We really want to emphasize that the move-in requirements are going from 2 full days to only being required to participate in 2 half days. So on each move-in day, there'll be a morning shift and an afternoon shift, and frogs would only be expected to ever help out with 1 shift. That way, everyone has time in those 2 days to rest and recharge and recuperate so that you can be the most supportive frog possible for your first year students. So we really want to make sure to emphasize that those are now 2 half days for move-in. And then here you'll see a list. There's a handful of a couple dates that we are asking our frogs be ready and willing to support their first year students throughout weeks of welcome. There are specific dates because weeks of welcome it's a pretty lengthy process at the beginning of the semester. So we've chosen some specific dates that we would love our frogs to support their first year students. So definitely take note of those if you are anticipating being a frog in 2023.
So talking about frog training beginning in August, if you are planning on living off campus, we ask that you consider the training date when you're signing your lease. We would like for you to move in prior to August 15th, the first training day, and the Office of Orientation is willing to do whatever we can to assist you in that. We'd be happy to write a letter to your apartment complex indicating that you're taking part in this program and that you need to move in early. But again, it is up to the apartment complex's discretion, and we are not able to make any guarantees. If you're planning on living on campus, you don't need to worry about this. JMU will allow you to move into your dorm early. And again, I just want to emphasize that we ask that you move in prior to the first day of training so that you're not worrying about getting your keys and moving in on the first day.
So to offer a little bit of a sample schedule, like what a day in the life of a frog might look like, we chose a move-in day so you can get a feel for what those days might specifically look like. So it probably starts pretty early, 6:30 go time, right? We're waking up, we're getting excited, we're ready for the day. You're likely going to have breakfast with your frog team and your OPA supervisor in the morning. That way you can see each other in the morning, you can have a little fun, you can set a game plan for the day, you can get focused. So you'll start breakfast with your team. And then if you had the morning shift, for example, then you would go and assist with first year move-in right at 8 o'clock, right? So we start right in the morning with them, supporting our first year students with move-in. Now, if you were to have that morning shift, like I said, that leads directly into lunch, and then lunch leads into your break. So then after lunch, you would start your afternoon of rest. If you were to work the afternoon shift, that's when you would come onto campus to help with that first year move-in. And then after your break, you come back for community time around 7:30, and that would be with your first year students and their RA. And that is time that we've intentionally carved out to make sure that our frogs can help assist that relationship building and that community building between our first year students and their RAs to make sure that that residence hall experience is as smooth as possible. And then we end tonight with social programming. So again, that's helping our first year students get to know each other, get to know you, get to know JMU. So that's another opportunity to really intentionally build community while having fun.
So what would you get out of being a frog? Well, first, you'd get valuable leadership experience that you can use to market yourself. This isn't just a volunteer position. It's something that you can put on your resume to say that you were a leader at JMU during your time here. You also get the chance to build connections with JMU faculty, staff, and administrators. Not only will you be working with the O team, but you'll also be working with all of our campus partners during weeks of welcome. You will have meals provided during all training days and WOW programming. You get 2 frog shirts and an additional item of your choice. You get the ability to give back to the JMU community, which is one of the biggest takeaways that former frogs cite when they are talking about their experience. And you also get an unforgettable experience with your first year students.
So now that we've completely convinced you to be a frog, we are so excited. And I just want to remind you one last time of what that application process looks like. So it's that two-step process that I mentioned, the first step being to apply. Even if you are a little unsure or still have some questions, we really encourage you to fill out the application so that we have all of your information available. And of course, there are ways to reach us and ask us questions and have any of your concerns addressed, which Emma will get to a little bit on the next slide. But definitely make sure you apply and get your application in by our deadline of Tuesday, March 7th at 11:59 p.m. The second part of that process is what I mentioned earlier. It's completing that individual interview in late March if you're invited. So just make sure if you're interested in being a frog that you apply and you keep your eyes peeled for information about individual interviews.
Thank you so much for joining us. Apply, become a frog. You can scan the QR code that's on the screen to be taken directly to our application. If you have any questions, please feel free to come by the Office of Orientation and Transition. We're on the second floor of the SSC in Suite 2100. You're also welcome to email either Mallory or I at the emails listed on screen, or you can email the official JMU orientation email and follow us on Instagram. We're going to be posting a lot of stuff about the frog position. So if you have any questions, please feel free to interact with us there.
Thank you so much again for joining us, and we look forward to reading your application.